Hi, it's Penny here and welcome to another reading vlog. This week I'm mainly going to be trying to catch up on my September reading plans. There's only 4 more days left of the month, so we'll see how much we can get through because I will have the new Brandon Sanderson Secret Project book coming through on the 1st, so I kind of want to get September finished before that starts. And I actually want to get through my October books and try and make my realistic TBR plans actually realistic. I'm not really sure how well it's going to work out though, since I've only got 4 days and there's actually about 4 books I want to try and read. And as well, tomorrow we're probably having date day, and on Friday there is the annual book fair that I usually go to with my sister, like a charity book fair. I have been this year trying not to buy books because we're planning to move and it would be nice to move less books rather than more. But I'm still going to go and I'm going to try and control myself. It's possible I won't even buy any books because I'm only going to buy books that I'm super, super excited about. Either ones where they're my favorite but I don't own them, or ones that are high on my TBR list and ones that I'm expecting to love. But I guess I'll take you along to the book fair and hopefully we won't buy too much, but we'll see. Anyway, what am I reading? Firstly, I will be trying to continue Ruth Rendell, these collected short stories that I started on last week. I am about 2/3 of the way through already, and I'm hoping that the last third is going to return to the style of stories from the first third because those are the ones I was liking more. They're kind of quite clever murder mystery type things. Maybe not something that's going to stick with me long term, but I have kind of been enjoying them. I probably need to read about 40 to 50 pages of this a day to get through them by the end of the month, which should be doable. The other thing I have is Best Served Cold. This, obviously, I was not planning to finish this month, but I had hoped to start it, so I guess we'll see. This is from the First Law world by Joe Abercrombie. I read the First Law trilogy earlier in the year, and then this is the next book kind of in the series. I don't really know what characters it follows or what the point of it is. I kind of just want to go into it blind, but the first trilogy was very grimdark, lots of awful politics happening, a bit of strange magic, so I'm hoping more of that. And then as well we have audiobooks. So I have 2 that I was hoping to get through. Again, 4 days left, very unrealistic. So I think I will start with the Sun Down Motel by Simone St. James because there is someone waiting for this, so I won't be able to renew it. Whereas the other audiobook I have, Daughter from the Dark by Marina and Sergei Diachenko, the authors of Vita Nostra, that has no holds on it, so I could renew it. I could read it in October. I'm probably going to have to because I'm going to run out of time. But anyway, the Sun Down Motel I'll start first. As far as I know, it's just some kind of thriller where we're following some girl who works in a motel and then weird stuff is happening there. And I think it's going to have some kind of paranormal element. I'm a little bit worried because I do find that the kind of paranormal stuff that fantasy people like doesn't necessarily overlap with the kind of paranormal that thriller people like, or at least that's been my experience in the past. So I guess we'll see, and I guess I'll update you when I've actually done some reading. Hello, so I did manage to get about 1/3 of the way through the Sun Down Motel this morning on my run, even though I went on a shorter run, but I still made some good progress through it. I will say, so we're following 2 characters. One is in 1982, yes, 1982, and it's this girl who kind of ran away from home, told her mum she was moving to Hollywood, but ended up stopping at this Sundown Motel and getting a job there and kind of just getting stuck there. And we're getting her experience is there's kind of some different strange people around the motel, a lot of criminals, a lot of strange goings on, but also we've already had some ghost type experiences. Then as well as getting her experience, we're getting her niece who knows that her auntie went missing. And we got a scene which I think was supposed to be the auntie's last scene. Then we went back to her getting to the motel for the first time, and then we got the niece who's investigating what happened to her auntie, and the niece has ended up getting a job in the same motel as she investigates what's going on. And then in the future time, which is 2017, there's also a lot of strange goings on, and I'm finding it really hard to decide which ones are important. Like, if this book was going to be phenomenal, I feel like almost everything would be important and it would all link together. But at the same time, there's so much going on that I feel like some of it must be just superfluous, and it is quite difficult on audiobook to like take in all the information. That's definitely one benefit of physical books over audiobooks, is it is a lot harder to keep all the facts in your head via audiobook, so I'm struggling a little bit to like keep track of everything that might be important. So I'm kind of just enjoying the ride, even though I think I would like the series a lot better if I was like taking lots of notes and like, you know, trying to work it all out in advance. But also there's ghosts, so like how much am I going to be able to work out in advance? I don't really know. So I don't know that I'd say I'm loving it, but I am having a fun time with it. Then as well, I did read some more of this last night and also this afternoon while it was yuck and rainy. And I've actually managed to get up to page 320, which is pretty good since after today I'll only have 2 more days, and tomorrow's going to be all about the book fair. So who knows? Can I get through this? I think so. So I've read a few stories. To be honest, I feel like this last third, most of the stories have been about couples where the man has been unfaithful. Actually, the story I'm reading right now, I haven't quite finished it because I just got distracted. But the story I'm reading right now is where the woman was unfaithful. And then generally the cheated on partner is getting some kind of revenge. To be honest though, I haven't enjoyed those stories much. I just don't really enjoy reading about couples who are really unhappy together being together, and even if there's some kind of like delicious revenge at the end, like wouldn't it be better if you just quit a lot earlier? And I do think as well that the stories in this last bit haven't been as clever. Like there was one where this woman just kept like getting out of her car in Africa when they're on the safari, and she's been warned, don't get out of your car. And I just got really annoyed with her, and I didn't feel like what happened at the end was particularly clever. But how many stories do I still have to go? I think just 6. So if I can read a couple tonight, a couple tomorrow, a couple on Saturday, I should be able to get this done. And like, I think I'll keep hoping that the last few stories will be as clever and as fun as the first third, but I guess we'll see.
Pick it up from the top, hit restart. So far it's been so hard to live, but lately something in me changed. Let it go, let it be. Don't fight your way back in. Let me go, let me be. It's time that we begin. Welcome to a new life. Dripping in gold, that's nice. Welcome to a new life. Everything feels so right till I opened up my eyes. I thought I was defeated, but all I ever needed was just a little space and time to open up the ceiling, a different kind of healing. I feel alive. Can you feel it? I can feel it. I feel alive. Can you feel it?
Hello. So it is the day after the book fair yesterday. Just needed to recover really after that. I think my sister and I ended up being there for about 3.5 hours, because not just was there the normal hall that they have full of books, as well they normally have like a children's room and a bargain room, but this time they had 2 rooms of bargain books, and really that's where the best ones were. So the hall, it was $3 a book, and then in the bargain and children's rooms it was only $1 a book. So did I stick to my rule of only buying books that I was excited about? Yes, but let me show you. This is very dangerous. So I ended up buying 16 books, which is probably about what I would normally buy at one of these book fairs, but I'm excited about all these books. So now I'm kind of thinking that maybe I should have done this as like a separate haul video, but whatever, we're going to go through it now, and as I take you through the books to tell you about them, I'll try and put them away wherever I think they belong. So from the $3 room, I only bought these 4 books, which is not too bad. Firstly, I bought The Ask and the Answer by Patrick Ness. This is the second book in the Chaos Walking series. I have the first and third books already. These, my autofocus is not doing its job. These are not the same edition as this one. They're not even the same size. Quite, but at least now I have the whole series. It is a little bit unfortunate. I was actually a little bit annoyed when I saw this. Like, it's great that I've completed this series, but I'm in the middle of this like try a chapter thing where all the series books I have on my shelf yet that I haven't read or haven't started yet, I'm reading the first chapter of them, and I haven't read the first chapter of this yet. And if I read it and I hate it, I'm going to be really annoyed. But it's only $3, so it's not the end of the world. And if I love it, then that's perfect, right? So I was excited to be completing the series, even if I wish I had gotten a little bit further ahead on my try a chapter project. But anyway, this book will be going with these ones on my series shelf, which is way up there, hidden away. Then me and my sister actually both got a copy like this. We got this Lord of the Rings. It's a bind up of all 3 books, and it's just a really cool cover. It's got like these, I don't know if you'll be able to see. I do have autofocus on though, so maybe. Like all these funny little creatures along the bottom. Anyway, we just really liked these editions as well. I think I have a copy of The Lord of the Rings. I'm not really sure. I think we passed it back and forth between us for a while. I don't really like that copy. I'd much rather have this copy. To be honest, I don't really even like The Lord of the Rings, but it's one that I might read again at some point. And if I'm gonna own a copy of it, I'd like to own a nice copy. Where does this go? Probably on those shelves over there that I can't really reach at the moment. I don't think I thought this through. I'll just build a pile over here for those shelves. There's a whole bookshelf destruction kind of video coming at some point as well. Then as well, I picked up The Bone People by Kerry Holm. So this is like a New Zealand classic written by a Maori author. It says blending reality and dreams, melding Maori and Pākehā, weaving strange and hurtful pasts into strangely bright futures. I can't actually remember what this was about, but I did want to read it. And I think the library only had 1 copy, and it was kind of hard to get my hands on. And I kind of think this kind of book is one where it will be slow going. It will take me a while to read because it's an older book. When was it released? 1983. So I want to read this, but I also want to be able to take my time with it. And a book that the library doesn't have many copies of is not going to work very well for library borrowing. So excited to just have my own copy, even if it's not the most pretty copy. But I actually think a lot of the copies of this are not that pretty. Maybe books in 1983 just weren't that pretty, you know? So this will go on my TBR shelf. Then the last book that I got from the $3 room was this one. To be honest, I got this purely for aesthetic purposes because it's got like the same picture on both sides, and then down the spine it's kind of like reversey as well. So this turns out to be like a free copy of a thriller set in a small town. I haven't been telling you what any of the other books were about. We'll start from here, shall we? So this is a thriller in a small town where a girl's best friend goes missing at a party, and then all these secrets come out of the woodwork. But let's be honest, I mostly got it because I like the reversey nature of it. That's probably the hardest one to justify, but I'm going to put it onto my TBR shelf and hopefully I'll end up loving it. Okay then, $1 books. Firstly, I got 2 that are just going to be gifts for family members for Christmas, so that's Christmas shopping started, and only $1 each. Nice. Where am I going to put these? I don't know. Maybe in my drawer? And this next one for $1 when it's this thick. So nice. I got The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. It's not even that old a release, really. 2015, like in the context of the book fair, that's a pretty new release. I don't actually know much about The Grace of Kings. However, I've seen so many people talking about it and loving it, especially Patrick, and I wanted to read it. I have it on my series to read list. And again, this is one where I think from what I've heard about it, it would be best done as a physical read, but it's also probably quite a slow read. So best to have my own copy. And now I do. Huzzah! This one is going to go onto my series that I own that I haven't started yet pile for my try a chapter video. Oh, then this next one, let me grab something. So, before I went to the book fair, I was looking at my shelves at like series where I don't have all the books yet and thinking like what would be my dream books to find at the book fair. And one series I did think about is I don't actually know, what is this series called? The Rampart Worlds trilogy by Julian May. So I have the first book and the second book. I actually got the second book at the book fair one year as well. And I've read the first one, but then I've never continued because I always hoped that I would find the third book. And I found it. Now, it's not in hardback and matching like these, but it is the same size. So that's quite nice. There were actually 2 copies of these as well, paperback ones, but small ones. And I was really tempted to buy those as well, but I do not need them, so I didn't. I was trying to find like a matching third one there, but I just don't think it was there. I think the person that had those small ones also had this one. But anyway, this is quite a nice matching set, and now I can read the series. But I'm a little bit conflicted. I think that I'm not going to put this on my series I own but I haven't read pile, because I think these books belong more in a separate project I want to do one day where I reread all the books I loved from my teens and my 20s, because Julian May is an author that I loved from that time. And I did read the first book and love the first book during that time. What I remember of this is that it's like a mix of sci-fi and fantasy, because it's kind of like there's sci-fi worlds and people able to travel through space, and we're following like one space criminal guy, but there's also this other planet where it's very fantasy world and there's like some woman with goblins under her control, and so it's like that combination of sci-fi and magic, which I'm really excited for. So I'm just going to put these on my main shelves at the moment, and at some point when I do my shelf destruction, I'll probably try and group up some of these older books that I need to reread. That's the plan. Then we have another book that's actually a fairly similar story. I should grab the books. So a series that I loved in my 20s, I think, was the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, and I have this bind up of the first Chronicles and then the second Chronicles. This is kind of like a Lord of the Rings portal fantasy type thing. Basically this old crotchety man with leprosy goes into this fantasy world, and like the fantasy world building is amazing, but Thomas Covenant never really believes that it's real, or struggles a lot to believe that it's real, even though everyone believes that he's the chosen one come to save them all. So there were these first 2 trilogies, and then more recently Stephen Donaldson released another trilogy in the world. Actually, I say it's a trilogy, and I think it specifically calls it a trilogy in places, but there's 4 books. Someone can't count. But anyway, this is the first book in that newer trilogy. So yeah, I want to read this, but again, I'll probably read this when I do my reread of the originals, because there would be no point reading this without a reread of these ones, and like that's a lot to get to. So who knows when I'll get to it, but for now I'm just going to put this with my older books, even though I've just destroyed that shelf. Okay, then before I went to the book fair, I thought to myself, wouldn't it be good if I could find more books in the Midnight Crossroads series, because I really like this one, but I only own the first one. And then I was very excited to find the third book, Night Shift. But as well, then I found the first and second books of Midnight Crossroads and Day Shift. So even though I already own this one, I picked it up because it matches this one. It's very unfortunate that this one doesn't match, and again I looked to see if I could find a matching one to these, but I suspect that whoever donated these had these editions like grouped together, so it's not a perfect match, but still at least I've got 2 matching, and at some point I'll reread these, but it doesn't belong in that favorites from my 20s reread, because this is a favorites from my 30s kind of reread, and it hasn't been long enough to need that reread yet. But maybe, like, this series is a spin-off from the Sookie Stackhouse series, and it's just like, I find it a really cozy kind of series, even though there are murders going on and vampires and all sorts of paranormal creatures, but I really like these, so I'm excited to own the whole series. And I guess this I will put in a little free library somewhere. So these go back on the shelf. And somewhere I need to put a pile of books to go in a little free library, but I thought I had a couple already and I don't know where they are. Did I already donate them? I don't know. I guess this will go on my desk for now. I probably need the reminder. Then lastly, I have 4 Christopher Pike books. So Christopher Pike, I always thought of him as like Stephen King for kids, but like older than R.L. Stine. But I just always loved Christopher Pike books. I actually used to own a bunch of them and I got rid of it, and I've had regrets ever since. I do still own some somewhere. Honestly, I have no idea where they are on these shelves. But at some point I would like to do like a reread of Christopher Pike books, as well as like point thrillers and all those kind of books that I was reading around the same time, like just supernatural, mysterious, sometimes kind of spiritual ideas. Some of this Christopher Pike ideas, just like when I was a teen, they were amazing. I don't know if that's what my experience would be like as an adult, but these ones I think I remember reading and loving. So Magic Fire, Gets Really Weird, Weekend, Spellbound, and The Wicked Heart. There were actually more there. Primarily, the one I most wanted to get was the Last Vampire series. They had the first 5 books. If they had had the 6th one there, I would have got it. But I do have a bind up somewhere. My shelves are such a mess at the moment. I do have a bind up somewhere of that series when they re-released it and rebranded it as Thirst. But I would prefer to have the original books that were more like these ones. So maybe in the future I'm going to regret not having picked up those first 5 books. But I just, at that point, I had bought so many books, I couldn't justify it. But at least I got these ones, which I doubt I will see in many other places. But you do sometimes see Christopher Pike books around still. So maybe I'll find them. And these will go down by my point thrillers, at least until I find where I put the rest of my Christopher Pike books. So I think in the end I only ended up adding 2 books to my physical TBR list, so I haven't ruined my TBR 0 too much. It basically goes with the other 2 that I had. So now I only need to read 4 books to get to TBR 0, which I can definitely do by the end of the year. So that is my book fair haul. I'm pretty happy with it. Now let me tell you briefly about my reading. So I have read, I think, nearly 50% of the Sun Down Motel. I'm not minding it, but I just don't feel particularly engaged with the characters. I think sometimes I struggle to tell the 2 characters apart because in some ways they're very similar and they're both now investigating murders. So the auntie back in time is kind of investigating all these other murders that have happened in the area, and the niece is investigating those same murders along with her auntie's murder. But I am kind of getting a bit clearer in my head now who all the different characters are that are floating around, as well as like what these murders were that we're investigating. But I'm not really sure whether the ghost element is really going to end up being much, but it kind of has to be, doesn't it? I'm not sure, but I guess we'll see. I'm probably not going to finish that until my run tomorrow. However, I've realized that my Brandon Sanderson Secret Project book won't come until tomorrow night because of time zones. If my maths is right, it'll be 7 p.m. tomorrow night. So basically, anything I read up until then, I'm just going to count as having been completed in September. So I'll probably finish that tomorrow. And I definitely think I can finish this today. Because I'm only a couple of stories away at this point. But to be honest, I haven't been enjoying these last ones nearly as much. We had some more like infidelity, couples that don't get along. I did actually really enjoy the one I just read where the husband is like, you need to stop knitting. It really annoys me when you're knitting, because when they first kind of got together, she wasn't knitting, but then once she relaxes a bit, she starts going back to her knitting, and he just finds it a waste of time, keeps telling her to stop, and eventually she kills him. And honestly, justified, fair enough. So I found that one a lot of fun, but just they're not really clever, and I feel like it's always really obvious what's going to happen in these ones, and I don't know, is that because I just got better at seeing the formula, or is it because they really aren't as clever as the first ones? Who knows? But I've only got a couple more to go, so I will definitely finish those off, and then I guess tomorrow I'll give you final thoughts. Hello. So I am slightly more together today, although my neighbours are still making noise outside, so I don't know if you can hear that. Honestly, they're just noisy all the time, so I can't really wait for them to stop making noise to film. So everything's not perfect, but I have finished the books that I was reading. So firstly, the Sun Down Motel. When I think back on it, I think the thing with this book that I wasn't expecting is that the main characters felt so young, and because both of them were really in that new adult phase where they're going out and exploring the world and figuring out who they want to be, as well as solving murders, it had that new adult feel that that coming of age kind of feel doesn't often end up being something I can relate to just because I'm so far past it. I know some older people still really like those themes, but I I could never quite relate to the characters. Like, I could see that it was really well written and a lot of the clues all came together in a fairly satisfying way, and there was some excitement at the end, but at the same time, like, I just don't know that this story will stick with me. And I think that really does just come down to the fact that the themes aren't something that I'm particularly interested in. It does kind of have some quite nice explanations of how horrible it is that the world is full of so much violence towards women, and like some good descriptions I thought of how that feels. But overall, to me, it just felt like kind of a normal kind of thriller. There was that ghost aspect, and there was a little bit done with that, but again, like I said in the beginning, I just think thriller people like a little bit of supernatural stuff that makes their thriller a little bit stranger, whereas as a fantasy person, I want like that paranormal element to be like more fully explored and explained, and you don't get that. So like in the end, it was fine, but has it helped me figure out what kind of thrillers I like? I guess maybe it's another pointer towards what kind of thrillers I don't like. Maybe. Okay, then my battery died. I guess I am really not put together. But anyway, the other thing I finished was these Ruth Rendell Collected Stories. This vlog, I think I only read the last third, and honestly, the last third was my least favorite of this. So I feel like now I'm going to say lots of negative things, but actually the first third I really enjoyed, and even the middle third was about these short stories following one of Ruth Rendell's like characters from her books, Inspector Wexford, and like I felt like I was missing a lot of characterization because they would have been in the main books, but I still kind of liked those stories and thought they were quite clever, or maybe not as clever as the first third, but still kind of clever. This last third, it just felt like Ruth Rendell had been in a bad relationship or something and just wanted to write about bad relationships. I'm trying to remember some of the last stories. One of them was this old woman who thinks maybe she could be like all those old women who solve crimes that she reads about in books, but she's an idiot. What was the point of that? And I can't even remember the last one. Oh, the last one was about this town where there's a serial killer, but this young boy, like a smaller kind of guy, isn't afraid to go out because he's like, oh, well, I don't fit the category of these victims. And then that doesn't work out so well for him. I don't know. I just think these end ones weren't as good. And I don't know. I probably should do the research. But I wonder if these later stories were like written at a different time. I suspect later, maybe once she'd used up all her best ideas. Anyway, I like the first third. And if you like murder mystery type stories, like these were okay. But the last third I thought got a bit silly. But maybe if you like dysfunctional relationships, that last third would be exactly what you like. But I do think I probably won't be reading any Ruth Rendell, so this is not the kind of murder mystery thrillers I like either. These weren't really thrillers, more just murder mysteries. Anyway, those are the books that I read this week. I feel like I've forgotten most of this week already, but let me know if you've read either of these and if you have any thoughts about them, or let me know if you've been reading anything exciting lately. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.